Steven, you're live.
We're live.
You're live. You're live.
Oh, I thought you were taking over this, Fred. Hey, everybody, all of you that are in the chat right now, welcome to another AAA Anonymous, which we're not really sure what the title is yet, but we'll get to that in a second. And as if you couldn't tell, we're going to be talking today about XCom 2. It just released. Some of us have actually gotten a chance to play the game. Some of us haven't actually left yet. You're just seeing a Android or something like that. But before we get into the game itself, might as well go around the table. I will unfortunately again be your host, Steven, also known as Slave to Machine. I don't have enough liquor for this. Fred, who are you and why are you?
Can I start by saying what a beautiful production this has been so far and how grateful I am to have such great artists, including, myself on staff. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. To give me a round of warm. At 6 in the morning, I woke up today to get this production going. And I think it is a beautiful success. The whole thing went smooth. I think everybody can hear you in the chat. I think it's working. Thank you. You even have the countdown. You know when the giveaway is coming. You can go watch the Super Bowl, come back, and still make the game. Pretend you're with us. We've got 16 people on the show already. Steven, everybody is happy. Having said this, we're here to talk about XCom 2, and I'm quite excited. Thanks for inviting me again, Steven, especially after the little incidents last week. I'll be sure to be on my best behavior.
Calm down, Miss America. Hang on. Slow down, Miss America, French edition. So let's go around, and in case anybody hasn't seen one of these episodes, before we get into the introductions that Fred ran away with, OP Noobs, we are a community for gamers, by gamers. If you go to opnoobs.com, you'll see that we review games, mostly indie, but we have to admit that we are kind of addicted to gaming in general, and that means that we can't ignore the AAA titles. And so, from the ashes of all the things that we do, and all the videos that we have drunkenly had, that is where AAA Anonymous comes out, where once a week, once a month, once every couple of weeks, depending on how much we have to say about it, we gush about how much we love some of these AAA titles. And so, Fred Breezy, the CEO, Grand High Poobah, and Jim Jones of OP Noobs has decided to grace us with his presence today. Fred.
Yes, also known as the pain in the ass.
That is true. Also on the show today, who has been here before, a fella named Eli Ross. Eli, how you doing?
That's all you're going to say about Eli? Good. That's all you're going to say about Eli?
I want him to introduce himself because he has so many hats and so many titles and not enough time.
I have to introduce myself now?
You do!
Damn it. I write and I do audio, video stuff, and I was streaming before, but we're getting that set back up again. We'll see how that goes once we get it going.
Honestly, the problem with Steven is that he doesn't go on the website. Because if Steven went on the website every now and then, he would know that Eli just performed something ultimately beautiful for the company as a whole. Do you know what that is, Steven?
Why don't you tell us, Eli?
I reviewed Bombshell, which was okay.
Just okay.
Wow.
We're talking like
so much enthusiasm.
A 30 or a 40?
I gave it a 71 because it's still fun, but it needed more work. It needed some more thought put into it.
You actually gave it a score well above the range, I think, of what most of the press gave it.
Well, okay, but the press, honestly, when I looked at some of the stuff that they had put out about it, honestly, it seemed like people were just bitter as hell. And it's like, judge it objectively, okay? It's not horrible.
Isn't it kind of what happens, though, when a studio and a publisher is going to build a lot of hype around the game, make it like this is going to be the next best thing, and then suddenly...
But they didn't. They didn't.
I don't know. I feel like Bombshell got a lot of...
It didn't. Like, they put out a bunch of trailers and stuff, but they didn't go around saying it was going to be the greatest thing ever. They just put out trailers for the game and, tried to say that it was going to be fun, which any company will do. I think the biggest thing was, I get the feeling a lot of people were bitter towards 3D Realms because of Duke Nukem Forever.
Boy, that wouldn't be the first. Well, it's not so much 3D Realms that should be bitter toward. It's more like Gearbox. But speaking of bitter and fun, we have one of our key writers, one of many writers. Caitlin, I can never say your last name, so I'm going to just leave it at that. Caitlin, who are you? What do you do for OP Noobs? Because I like the people to actually say their titles.
All right,
Caitlin.
Well, I write.
Manka,
and
right?
I help.
can never
yes,
say
it is Manka, like Manka, like Mankey the Pokemon, but with an A at the end.
Manka.
Yeah.
And a strange accent.
Yep.
Which eventually you'll have to explain what the whole accent is about.
The accent on the A is to denote that it's a long A Caitlin, because they said my name wrong at my college graduation.
So it's not a cultural
that's okay.
thing at all whatsoever. It really is because you got fed up with the way they...
Yep, it's just a personal thing.
That's awesome.
That's right, Caitlin.
Well, speaking of weird accents, Fred, we'll get back to you in a second. And finally, a new face on the show this time. We have Gary. Gary, who are you? How are you here? And why did you wander into the studio?
I am a very new writer for OP Noobs. I don't think that my first review has even shown up on the website yet, to my knowledge.
You can't tell Chris about an RT, man. Moving on.
I just got in here. I'm planning on trying to do it as an internship, but mostly I'm just a writer.
Okay, wonderful. Fantastic. Anyway, so long and short, in case nobody has seen the trailer repeatedly on a loop, XCOM 2 has released. What is everybody's initial thoughts? Briefly, Fred. Briefly.
First of all, it doesn't sound like you. Why don't we start with you, Steven? Because I'm hyped. I think Caitlin.
You don't want to start with him.
I think Caitlin against Oliver.
I'm the host, sir.
Yeah, but
you start with.
Yeah, but I feel like
you don't want to start with me.
Yeah, but I feel like everybody's Everybody's hyped up about XCOM.
You don't have the endurance nor the dexterity to start with me on this one, Fred.
You suck.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah, I knew
start.
it wouldn't take too much to get you talking.
Since you asked nicely, okay. XCOM is a very, very old series. XCOM was released originally for DOS way back when by publisher Microprose, and it was an isometric strategy game. So was all the other XCOMs that came after that, including the most recent XCOM. Now we have XCOM 2, and I'm sorry, but my biggest complaint with XCOM is that it's been turned into an arcade sim, in my experience. A lot of the things that would normally matter, a lot of the steps that would normally matter, you're basically stuck with a certain number of actions that you can take per turn. You can't pick up items as you could in past games. It's all pretty much streamlined for a casual strategy gamer in my feeling.
That's not what I'm hearing. Again, actually, this is the first time I say this. I've only played the game about 4 or 5 hours at this stage, so I'm a little bit behind from where I was with Tomb Raider last weekend. That's because things got busy. But I don't know. I don't know how much I can tell you that I was getting my butt kicked playing in hard on the very early missions. So I didn't feel like that was like strategy game at all at first.
Now, when you say hard, you're talking because there's 4 different difficulty levels, which I find weird because one of them is for the experienced XCOM 2 player. I'm just starting the new game. How can I be whatever?
Yeah. They have a typo. There's typos left and right too, by the way, I've noticed.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. Yeah, when you start a new game, like I did, like everybody's done, on the difficulty select screen before you start a new game, it says for the experienced XCOM 2 player. I'm like...
Well, that's also because maybe some people are going to spend a lot of time playing this game for quite a couple years before the next one comes out. So then contextually that makes sense in 6 months from now, I'd say. They're essentially telling you don't start this mode now, start with that level and gain the experience you need and then come back and approach it that way, I think. Which is
I would figure
fair.
that it's kind of splitting hairs. I know, Fred, you don't have too many left, but I think it's just one of those things where it was just a weird phrasing, and it really is just splitting hairs. But to me, XCOM 2 is enjoyable, but I don't think it deserved a lot of the hype that it got. And now I'm going to pitch it out to, not Fred, Eli. Have you played at all? What are your thoughts?
Okay,
I mean, you're here, so I presume you did.
We have experts
I'm
here.
the odd one out here. I have not had a chance yet. I'm
Then
here
get
to
out
be
of
helpful.
here.
Yeah.
Okay,
right away,
Caitlin.
sir.
Yeah,
Yes?
Caitlin, you've played a lot, and we're going to get into your interesting playstyle.
Actually,
what are your thoughts about
I'm gonna
XCOM?
disrupt the
Stay out of
flow.
here,
I'm disrupting the flow of the conversation because you kind of introduced her the very wrong way. Caitlin did not play it a lot. Caitlin played it a lot at first against her own will, and then became completely, utterly addicted that she has clocked in more hours than Gary, the real fan of the game, and Gary couldn't play the game because of Caitlin. So, if
She's
anything,
using my copy.
yeah, she's using his copy. So, if you've said
But that's the fun part, Fred, is the fact that as somebody that has played it so often, but she doesn't really like it, I want to get her thoughts first before we get into yours, because you and I were talking
Fair
about
enough.
it before the show
I'll shut
started. So, as someone that, first off, do you have a lot of experience with the older XCOM games?
Never. I've never played an XCOM title. I only heard of it when the first one came out in, 2013, 2012, sometime around that time. And I don't play strategy games, at all. The last one I played was Final Fantasy Tactics, and that's barely strategy.
Okay. So, but that said, why did you clock 40 hours if it wasn't that much of a game for you?
Because it made me angry.
Okay.
I mean,
Go
it
ahead.
did. So, I thought that the trailer was awesome, and the guy's voice sounds like the literal trailers guy, and I got so excited. And I was like, oh, they've got snark, they've got humor, but they don't. They don't have any humor. That guy's voice gets real old. I hate him already.
Okay.
Because he's actually in the game. The trailer is using a character from the game to narrate it.
Wait, what guy?
The guy that's always giving you missions and talking to you, who's in the shadows, he's the guy that narrates the trailer.
The guy that you only see on the TV, kind of just the silhouette?
The epic voice guy.
That reminds me of some old cartoon I used to watch, the guy with the cat, Detective Gadget. You used to watch Detective Gadget when you were a
You're
kid?
talking Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, Inspector Gadget, yeah.
Detective Gadget.
The first thing I thought when I saw the guy...
With that cat guy.
Yeah, it's the cat guy. He's coming, he's got his cat.
Dr. Claw.
I feel like Eli could do a really good Dr. Claw impersonation, but
No, I couldn't. I cannot get my voice that deep.
oh, that's unfortunate. But anyway, so steering the ship back on over. So, Caitlin, you clocked in 40 hours. What are your initial thoughts of the game as somebody that has never honestly played an XCOM game? How does
You
it play to
said
you? How
it
do
was for a casual person, right?
I did.
I am the definition of casual right here, right now. Okay?
And
It
how
is
do you-
so unwelcoming, and shots were fired between me and Gary because of how unwelcome I felt in this game. The tutorial was not a tutorial. It was a cutscene, basically, that told you how to right-click to move your character. Anyone who's ever played a MOBA knows that. The things that it did not teach me were the important things, like how to get up on top of a roof by scrolling your mouse wheel. No one taught me that. No one taught me how to actually do an objective or even get there. No one taught me how to do anything that's actually important to solving a mission in this game. And it was just
I'll get to you.
it was such a horrible tutorial that I actually did not start enjoying the game until I was asking for advice on how to do a thing every 5 minutes.
I'm going to regret this, but Fred, then Gary, then Eli. So, Fred.
Okay, so I have two comments to make on this, Caitlin, and I feel like it's also... the second one is a good comment that should lead to an interesting conversation. The first one, though, I kind of have to agree with you. I also, just a couple hours ago, I had to go on Google and figure out how the hell do you get up on top of a roof, and it's just, for those of you who don't know, you basically scroll the wheel mouse, and suddenly it gets you to the second level, and you climb up. This is the type of stuff that, yes, I agree, a tutorial should kind of, at least, if not a tutorial, even when you go to the key bindings, the key bindings are very limited. There's 10 of them, which is kind of cool because some of the times you get into your key bindings and immediately you're overwhelmed. You have like 20 key bindings for action, 20 key bindings for inventory, 20. So you just give up and try and figure out. This is the opposite story, but at the same time, kind of agree with you on the small stuff. It doesn't give you enough. But I totally disagree with you when you say the tutorial is not a tutorial. That's great. I don't want a tutorial. I don't want them to. I want to fail miserably. I want to run across fire and realize that fire burns. These are the small experiences which kind of immediately got me into the game and got me thinking, this is going to be cool. I'm going to learn through failures, baptism by fire, and I'm going to get better. And immediately it makes you want to get better. It immediately makes you want to play. Whereas if you say tutorials are boring as fuck, Caitlin. Like, tutorials are boring. Who likes tutorials?
Okay, but here's the problem. Here's the problem with that, Fred. There is no the tutorial that you walk through is a cutscene.
We don't want
but
one.
repeatedly, they are telling you to do stuff with those stupid little pop-ups that every game has. But they don't tell you how to do that. They just say, put people in Overwatch mode, it'll be an ambush.
And that was awesome.
Okay? But it doesn't work until you figure out how to do it.
The whole concept of concealment was very poorly explained, and at first
it was so poorly explained.
They don't want to explain it to you. They just want you to think this. If I figure what this is good. This could be cool. And the more you figure it out, and the better you get at it, the more you realize concealment is fucking awesome. I love
Fred,
concealment.
The fact that you have on the HUD, the fact that you have a shield in varying states of being filled, that is kind of a straightforward, hey, if I hide behind this bush, I'll be slightly concealed. If I hide behind this giant statue, I'll be more concealed.
That's not what concealment is, my friend Steven.
I would like to say
cover.
That's undercover.
When you're hiding.
As far as the issue with it not telling you, like not doing a tutorial on how to do different stuff, I would say the simple solution to that would just be a tooltip. Like, just have something on the screen that says, press this
Scroll
to do
up
this.
to do this. Scroll down to do this.
For the small
exactly.
stuff. I hate to get stuck on this, but yes, for like climbing on the roof, yes. For figuring out what concealment is, no. And maybe we should explain too what concealment is, I feel like.
But here's the funny part, though. If there was press F to mourn, it just doesn't feel like anybody's really happy. It just sounds like a lot of times if we hold the gamer's hand, we complain that there's too many people holding hands. If we don't hold the gamer's hand, they complain that there's not enough information. Gary,
Steven,
since you haven't spoken.
The tutorial is optional. Like, you can easily press a button and say, no, I don't want to do the tutorial at all. So if it's optional anyway, why is it that it's not more informative? Because presumably if it's optional, that means that only the people who want a tutorial should be touching it with a 10-foot pole.
It's optional. It's also the beginning of the story.
Which I feel like is bad design.
Yes,
because
I agree.
They're integrating something that is supposed to be optional into something that is important, kind of forcing people who don't want to do the optional thing to do the optional thing. Otherwise they're missing something.
By the way, it's in my tutorial that I kill my first Mexican.
Wow, Fred.
Yeah, all the Americans lived just great. The only person who died was the Mexican.
Wow.
I was like, with the patriotic music, let me tell you that the introduction to when you start feeling the security of the advent, and it feels like the US airport. And then suddenly you get into this mode and my Mexican dies. I had a moment early in game where I was like, I don't know if this game is too patriotic for me.
That's just great that
I lost
my
my
Mexican
black guy.
dies.
But then, even it kind of unfolds in a different way where you start hanging out with the Japanese, the French, the Italians, the Koreans, we're kind of all a melting pot fighting the aliens. But at first, my first contact with the Advent, honestly, swear to God, reminded me of the US government, when you go into governmental places. Just the rigor.
Probably intentional.
You think so?
I got a very a very obvious 1984 vibe out of the opening cutscene and the opening mission and all that. I thought it was a little weird that the XCom team that historically has always been anti-alien is apparently now on the same level as Greenpeace, or the militant wing of Greenpeace, blowing up a statue. It just seemed kind of out of place to me. Although I also find it very weird that even though XCOM has become apparently eco-terrorist, that my French sniper sounds like a valley girl from California. I don't know why.
You can, actually, talking about the options, I saw it, I didn't use it, but there's something in the option you can click and you actually have the real accents of the characters based on their countries. I haven't tried it.
Caitlin.
I actually always make my operatives not speak English. I very rarely allow them to speak English because the vocal script for the people who speak English doesn't matter if they're Australian, British, whatever. They're freaking crybabies every time. And I don't want to hear them whine about how they want to go home. No, they are trained for this. They are soldiers. They chose this job. They're rebels. You don't cry on a mission. I will band-aid it later, but not right now.
I was also
not the time.
I was surprised by how some of your characters tend to freak out.
If you give them a different language, they never cry. That's my experience. Never.
That's a great
quote. Move.
We need to put that on the review for certain. I did find it kind of interesting that they freak out really, really quickly, especially when they're confronted with an alien. I think the alien models look awesome compared to what they looked like in the previous XCOM game, though. Since we've gotten so deep into bashing the game for little stuff like options, I thought it was kind of awesome, some of the updated models. I do still see some sharp angles and polygons and whatnot, but I gotta say I really liked the effects in game. I liked the fact that when your character is taken over or killed, not that it's a spoiler, they can be raised like a zombie, which I thought that made things interesting. I also like the little touch, even though it seems minor, I like the little touch that when your character is taken over and turned into a zombie, if you kill the controlling alien, the zombie character dies, which I wasn't kind of expecting.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I assumed that based off the first game.
You would think, but a lot of times I was just going into it thinking, oh, well, they probably won't pay attention to that. And I was pleasantly surprised that they did. But were there any aspects while you were all playing the game, well, except Eli, while everybody was playing the game, that you really liked something that happened in game?
I do like the fact that environments are pretty much completely destructible. I think that was the case in XCOM 1 for the most part too, but it's very, very refreshing when multiple enemies are on a roof to throw a grenade at them, causing them to fall multiple stories. It's very refreshing. I'm a huge fan of that tactic.
Can I ask a quick question about grenades, actually? Because it's... The way I'm playing right now is I run out of grenades and then I use any guns. Because the grenades in comparison to guns are so OP. Of course, again, I'm only 5-6 hours in the game, but is there a point in time where that strategy doesn't become as viable?
No, I'm running a half of my entire squad every time is grenadiers. I love them. I love destroying everything.
I mean, you can kill 2, 3, 4 at a time. You're more powerful than my guns. Is this
you know
a problem
what?
with
Later on, they don't do enough damage, but they definitely do enough damage to a lot of people. So maybe 3 or 4, and then your other guys can kind of poke at them and get them down. But there was a friend of mine. Yeah, they shred armor too, which is a huge problem for me. And a friend of mine had an XCOM D&D campaign that we played in, and I was the most upset person because I made a character that had a flamethrower and a rocket launcher, and I was never allowed to use them. And so I am in such glory. Such glory.
Grenades have always been kind of the go-to, where if you're just totally screwed, grenades have always been that saving grace. In the early stages, like any other XCOM, you deal with weak enemies, no armor, your regular old, flak jacket bullets can cut through anything. But as you progress, you definitely need to look into researching better weapons and armor and all that kind of stuff. So that being said, Caitlin, other than the grenades, was there anything else that you really liked about the game?
I like to call this game Eccentric Soldier Creator 2016 because I spend all my time making my squad pretty. I could not see. It started out when I accidentally turned a guy pink because I realized I could change my weapon color and his outfit. And he was wearing a ski mask, so he had this fluorescent pink ski mask, and he was this black guy. So then I turned his eyes purple, and then I made his gun have hearts on it, and I named him Pinky.
Your girlfriend has a problem, man.
I am fully aware I'm okay with this.
So you basically turned it into Saints Row, is what you're telling me.
Well, the colors of the characters, which is good for, a game where you're having a squad of soldiers go into battle, it's good that they're very bland colored and everything is ugly. But for me, I can't tell them against the enemies sometimes, and I was occasionally in the first missions shooting all of my own guys.
Isn't there a difference in colors, like the enemies are red and you are blue?
You know what? I am colorblind. No, I'm not. I suck at map awareness and attention to detail. And I was having trouble investing care into my characters. And the first one I cared about was Pinky. The second one I cared about is a Korean that I gave turquoise hair and a handlebar mustache and made him only speak German. And I love him.
So that's a good question, actually. Do you guys think you're supposed to care about the characters?
Yeah, Caitlin and her operatives.
Personally, follow the rule that once they get to name level, specifically nickname level, that's when I start really caring about them.
That's
when they've proven themselves and they start to really be set apart.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm a little bit worried about, is how emotionally attached I'm going to be to leveling up some of those characters, and then when they die, don't you feel like a little bit hurt? Or
I will totally admit that not in the reboot XCOM, we'll call it that. In the reboot XCOM, I have no problem admitting that the loudest scream at the screen I ever had was when one of my highest ranking operatives, after about 15 missions or so, got picked off. And I just stopped and stared at that damn thing that took him out, and I just had everybody converge on that one guy and throw as much flack as they possibly could at him.
Vengeance!
And it's cool that they give you the kill counts too, like you can look at your character and see his kill counts. It's well done.
You can totally get invested in them, Fred, so it's totally okay. The one thing that I did is I nicknamed one of the characters after you, and it died first mission. Like, he didn't last. It was like the mission had just started, and he was immediately killed.
Moving on.
Sorry. Yeah, Caitlin?
It's funny that you mentioned losing your highest level operative, and it's because I don't have the skill to be playing this game. I didn't have the experience. I didn't understand how to do anything at all, really, until I discovered that I could create my own save files and backups, and it's apparently a very controversial thing to do this, but I found that by going back and repeating things, I've been able to train myself to play this game without having to resort to playing on easy mode. So now I'll let people die, but for the first 3 missions after I started save spamming, I refused to let a single operative die. Refused.
So you just reload a save every time? You don't do the hardcore mode?
And that's why I've been playing for how many hours straight, because I refuse.
Isn't that the anti-XCOM way from a cultural standpoint?
Apparently it is. Apparently.
For the hardest of the hardcore and the loudest speaking, yes, that is completely against the XCOM way.
I think
personally, I have no problem with it.
I think the devs even make a note about it in-game, telling you when you get to choose at the beginning the level that you want to play, you get to choose, I forget the exact technical term, and they say that's how real XCOM people play. Essentially, that's what they're telling you. And it's the capacity not to do what Caitlin did.
Well, I
it
needed to
basically
learn by
autosaves.
experience. I needed to see bad things happen and know how I could solve it. I didn't know how I could do things differently. I needed to try the same outcome 40 times to actually learn how to play this game. It was, for me, a huge learning curve for me to figure out how to solve missions and actually do them. And still I'm having trouble.
I don't know. There are only a handful of games that I can think of off the top of my head that do the permadeath thing. I totally admit that when playing XCOM, if I lose a major operative, I will have that temptation to reload a save. But a lot of times I just continue on because hopefully by then I've got another squaddy that's ready to be kicked up a notch. Eli?
All I can say is I remember in the original XCOM losing a major operative, and because there had to be so much effort into those operatives, into getting them to where they were really effective in a battle, because they started you off with operatives that were absolute crap in the original. I definitely feel you on that. I hate losing an operative in a mission. It sucks.
Do you actually lose the weapons too? Do you lose their gear in the process?
Only if you fail the mission and you don't get back to the headquarters. If you do, you pick everything up.
And if they had special gear, you can pick it up off their corpse.
Wow.
I lost a lot of guns that way.
Yeah, because in the original game, you could just stand over your fallen comrade and you could go into the inventory mode and then pick up everything, including their dead body, if you wanted to be that thorough about it. Of course, in the original games, you had limited space, for both legs, both arms, belt loops, and a backpack. So you would normally just throw your buddy in the backpack and keep going.
So how do you pick up the stuff?
Gotta give them a burial.
Are you supposed to walk over the dead bodies to pick up their gear, or is that automated? Because I can figure out how you do it.
When it's a yellow square, that means walk to that square, I learned. When it's not, you just get the stuff, apparently. That's what I think, but I could be wrong. I haven't lost anything since I started actually figuring out how to go to the extraction point, which I had to learn.
Because the tutorial itself tells you, be careful, you've got to pick up the stuff from the bodies. And during the tutorial, they explain to you how you do it. And then I tried the very same technique.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So that was very confusing.
If it doesn't work, I assume it's automated, especially since people have died with great guns, and somehow I seem to have enough guns without making new ones, so...
Can I throw a topic out there, Steven, while you're typing away?
No, of course not. How dare I answer people? Gary, you had your hand up, and then we'll get into Fred's topic.
Thank you.
Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
It's not. It was to a question that was a while ago. The question of was there anything that I particularly liked that happened. This is just purely an anecdote for me, but I got a Japanese man with a small top knot or small ponytail, who basically looked like an incredibly Japanese, incredibly stereotypical samurai. He proceeded to become a ranger, and when he got a nickname, it was Samurai. So there's a special place in my heart for that level of randomly generated racism. It just...
Fred, speaking of racism.
Yes, happy to answer.
You had a topic that you wanted to throw out to everybody.
Yeah, I had a moment of revelation yesterday when I was playing and I was hanging out with Eli and Caitlin on TeamSpeak. And I realized XCOM 2 is the perfect TeamSpeak game. Of course, when you're not playing whatever, I know a lot of people on TeamSpeak are going to play Call of Duty with a squad and get really competitive and stuff. But when you're just hanging out with your buddies, this is the perfect game. You literally just, because it's a turn-based thing, first of all, which it makes it perfect. So your focus can always be there. So when I'm playing a game like Tomb Raider, for example, and I'm on TeamSpeak, sometimes I feel like the people on TeamSpeak they're adding clutter to the universe in which I am. And that kind of gets in the way. And I never like to leave TeamSpeak because it's very much part of the gaming experience for me. But sometimes I will not get on TeamSpeak because I'm playing Lara Croft. Whereas XCom 2 is the opposite experience. You're just hanging out, you're kicking back, you're having a conversation with your friends, and you're doing this turn-based strategy that you can take at your own time, at your own speed, and it's a beautiful thing. Go ahead, Eli.
I just wanted to say, in regards to dealing with the corpses of the soldiers that you lose in a given mission, I was looking the stuff up about it just now, and from what I'm reading, if you don't pick up their corpse from the mission, you lose all the gear that they have. Like, you have to actually take their body back with you in order to get all that gear back.
But you take the body backs anyways without going over them. So
that's only if you succeed in the mission. If you get killed or if you fail the mission, like if there's a time limit, you pretty much in the original games, in the original DOS games, you would actually have to get back to the Sky Ranger because you would have access to your ship. In this one, or at least in the couple of missions that I've gotten through before tonight, there was no ship. So there used to be an evac point. Now, the evac point is actually automatic, which is the thing that kind of irritated me because to me, that takes a lot of the strategy out of it. If I'm getting totally wasted, is there a way to get back to the evac point if you're like totally steamrolled and you've got one operative left and you want to get back? Or has anybody gotten totally destroyed without save scumming and reloading?
I haven't. Do you find that you only have a certain number of terms allotted to you? I feel like there's two ways to look at that. I feel like it's adding a layer of complexity to the strategy that's, I'm not experienced in XCOM, so it's not like I'm speaking out of sometimes I feel like, is that like kind of an easy way to make the game more difficult, or is it actually perfectly embedded into the mechanics of the game and it makes total sense to have that limited amount of turns?
It's the original XCOM games had what are called action points, so you could move, but it wasn't a set number. Each character had a set number, but it wasn't just two movements. I think Caitlin is muted, so
and did you like that better, Steven?
Steven, he's not talking about that. He's asking about the missions that have a time limit for how long, how many turns you have to do it. And I hate it. I have been so angry about the time limit for missions.
I thought it was
it's not all of that. I do so much better on missions that don't have a turn limit. I hate the turn limit. It makes me livid with anger when I see one.
Yeah, I feel like that's frustrating too. Gary, I love to hear your thoughts on it because
I feel like it makes more sense in some cases than others. Like, a lot of them, it seems like, just from an in-universe perspective, from a game mechanics perspective, I think it makes sense. But when there's a time limit that has almost no real explanation that I can see, that's when it annoys me. Because, for example, a lot of the times it's something to the effect of they say that they're working to counter you, and if I haven't already, broken stealth, how are they countering me? How do they even know that I'm here? Why are they already scrambling squads to take out the Sky Ranger? This makes no sense.
See, but that's one of the things that I actually do defend the time limit thing, because in the older games, there was no real sense of urgency. You knew that either they were going to kill you or they weren't. Now you have to plan your steps accordingly. You have to plan your attacks accordingly. And to me, even though I was at the top of the hour griping about the lack of strategy, I thought it actually brought a lot of strategy into the game. You had to plan your moves. Like one of the earliest missions is you have to stop a beacon from uploading data, and you only have so many turns to do it in. Well, if I wanted, I could just take a couple of steps and make sure I kill everybody, and that's it. I don't have to worry about the beacon. At least with that time limit, or with that limited number of turns, that brought a lot more issue. instead of just having to duck bullets, I thought. Fred?
I just feel like that's kind of a cheap way to trigger difficulty. You know, it's I feel like the game should be difficult. The game should pose you a challenge without thinking it's not chess. You know, you're not playing chess here, or you're not strategizing
But
over.
it's a strategy game.
It's a strategy, but isn't it a little bit on the cheap end?
If you're giving me a time limit, drop me closer to the darn objective. Jeez.
Because I get.
I can't even get to the darn thing. I have that problem like every mission. I cannot even get to the objective before I'm swarmed and mobbed with people that I did not want to talk to.
Again, like for me in my head, it's too soon to tell because I like to form to form an educated opinion for once on this, and my intuition right now is that I don't know if I like to be limited because I feel like potentially from like a development standpoint, this could be kind of a cheap tactic to add a layer of difficulty, but. I don't know. As I get more deeply into the game, I feel like it might actually really make sense long term wise. I don't know, Gary. You seem to.
Really, I feel like they could have used it to make stealth better. Because personally, when I've used stealth, it's the only use for stealth that I've really been able to find is to get an alpha strike on the first group of people I see.
So you're talking
anything
about
more complex than that, I'm going to get surrounded, and then I'm just going to die in a firefight.
So for you guys who've played the game already quite a bit, how important... So let's explain concealment, Steven, because people may not be familiar with it. If I'm getting it right, concealment is basically at the beginning of of every mission, nobody knows you're there. At least for most missions I've been in so far. Nobody knows you're... Yeah,
that's the idea, yeah.
Nobody knows you're there. And the idea is to position yourself strategically by hitting the conceal at the end of the turn. Instead of taking your second turn, you're concealing yourself. And when if let's say you have 5 characters, 4 characters, 4 of them are in concealment mode. One of them goes into the line of sight of the enemies. And it's basically they're all going to react, all going to start coming to you, and the guys who are concealed as your team are going to shoot them by surprise and basically ambush them. That seems, conceptually to me, that seems super, super cool. And I'm sure when you're playing in hard mode, whether or not you're going to win or lose very much depends on your ability to master that trick. I don't know. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Caitlin?
It's actually, you're right about the concealment. It actually does work that way. And it is great for times when you have time to do all that setup. But when you have a mission count for, like, when you have a mission that only has so many turns to do something, you only have, like, 1 turn to set up, and you have to get close to the objective. So you're probably going to do a double move action before you even can get set up. And so I have trouble setting up when I have a time limit. I panic.
I totally ended up on, I think the first mission out, ended up putting one of my operatives dead center to an advent guard after concealment. I went around the corner, went around a car, and he's just standing right there, just chilling, just waiting. And he shot me and he missed. I don't know how that happened, but luck of the draw. Gary?
Nah, just waiting. Just waiting to see ya.
Okay. Eli, your thoughts on concealment? Are there other games that have a similar mechanic that you can think of? Because this is pretty new to the XCOM world.
Is it?
In XCOM, it's sort of new. In the original games, if you were behind a wall or something, then they wouldn't be able to hit you. They'd have to move to a point where they had a line of sight. But in most games now, it's just considered a cover system where you move to a spot where you duck behind the wall or something like that. It's the same kind of idea. It's just in this case, you're dealing with it based on, a grid strategy game.
Which is basically how XCOM started. Huh?
You're reminding me of Tomb Raider because I just finished a Tomb Raider and used stealth so much. Or I did. So.
Yeah, we already talked about the fun part of taking out people with a bow and having them talk to the person as they're dying, which is a wonderful glitch. I will never get over that. Fred, you keep waving angrily.
Yeah.
What?
There's another question I have for people who spent a considerable amount of time in game. Right now, every time I'm in between missions, I very much feel like I'm clicking my mouse a bunch of times, and it's kind of like, yeah, you're making choices, you're developing those technologies, you're researching those guns, you're opening those new rooms, but everything is so, I have no options. I'm basically going through every step of the way that they tell me. It's like I'm spoon-fed the entire how to approach the military base. And I wonder, in a game that's in a way finite, you're going to finish this game after spending 20 hours in it, if Stylo's right about the length. When you're more like into the end of the game, I guess, Caitlin, you already know where I'm going with this. When you're towards the end of the game, are they teaching me early on how to deal with the base? And does it actually become a real choice towards the end game? Are you really strategizing about what to develop and what to miss out on? Or is it going to keep being a push button, do the next step, which might as well not be there?
I didn't take it seriously either, Fred, and I am about to actually lose my playthrough because of it. And I'm going to keep playing till the end, but I'm actually going to lose. And the reason is because I decided I wanted to do all of the scientific research, and I didn't want any of that engineering stuff because I didn't have the supplies. I wanted to put my supplies into my awesome operative squad, who are fabulous looking. So
they look amazing.
So I didn't build the relay to make contact with other countries, and I didn't realize that the plot would happen anyway if I wasn't doing the plot. And so there's a terror track, kind of like, it reminds me of Call of Cthulhu, not Call of Cthulhu, but when you play the board game, Arkham Horror, and we have to advance the terror track 1 for every time something happens. It happened to me, and I only have 3 blocks left before Avatar Project is go.
But that's kind of good news. No, that's kind of good news because I'm excited about the whole base management type of concept and really focusing some of my time in the game, in the action, the missions themselves, and then really making the most of the in between time in the base and developing the right stuff and I'm excited about that. So. In a way, you may be disappointed, but it's also what's going to bring the replayability that so many players seek, no?
So here's my question though, Caitlin, is you had a problem with the in-game in the mission timers, yet you're playing toward the absolute destruction of the Earth. Why are you not reloading your save? If you're already doing that, why are you not reloading your save before you got into such terrible straits?
Because I think I might still be able to fix it, I hope. But at the same time, it was because I didn't understand the world map. I didn't understand that I was anywhere else except South Africa. I thought, you know what? South Africa and me are bros. I'm going to protect this spot right here. So it just went so poorly. And Gary over here had to explain it to me. Gary, can you please explain the Avatar thing, because I still actually to this point don't get it.
That's a very insular Trumpish way to run your world, Caitlin. I'm pretty kind of impressed about that. Gary,
essentially, the Avatar project is the primary thing that the aliens are doing that's driving the plot and driving you to leave South Africa. It is some kind of big thing that you have no clue what it is, but you can tell it's bad, and you can tell that they're putting a lot of effort into making sure you have no clue what's going on. So every once in a while, you will get information about somewhere in, like, South America or Russia, there is a site that is working on this. And you need to work your way through the regions and make contacts to get to that location so that you can disrupt it, because otherwise they are working on something that will destroy the entire world. So that is a huge part of the base aspect of you need to put resources towards actually, preventing them from destroying the entire world. It's not just a battle-by-battle thing.
So basically, it's the thing that everybody hated about Fable 3. That end of the world, you must get to X amount before the world gets to X amount in this world meter. Yeah,
It's kind of a timer on the entire game.
Yeah.
I thought that plot would just happen to me. I didn't realize that this is the kind of game where if you don't do the plot, you actually lose. I didn't understand, and I still do not understand how to get to America to do the plot.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
Because I'm at an Intel bottleneck right now where I can't get in. I need 2 points of Intel to get to America, and I can't get the Intel.
I gotta tell you, if you want to get to America, just follow Fievel's lead and, ride on a boat.
Well, I actually thought about going in through South America.
That everybody here understands.
Well, South America only costs 40 Intel, so I thought about going in through Brazil, actually, and, going from the south by, getting more missions and going that way, but I only have 3 turns, or, 3, 4-week increments before my terror track is filled.
You should just recruit a bunch of drug mules. They'll be able to get you into the U.S. for a lot less Intel, right?
Please get me to America!
I'll get you to America.
I'm pretty sure that's what actually the making contacts is representing.
Just getting drug mules all over the place.
Yes.
Stephen, I have a question for you. I don't know if you said that. I don't know if you said that pre-show or if you said that at the early stages of the show. But you said this is not about the story. This is not a game about the story.
Yeah. Okay. So in the pre-show, I made my opinion known about XCOM 2, and I kind of made it known at the top of the show that it's. Okay, look, this is not a game where the plot really matters. In the past, XCOM games didn't have a whole lot of plot. The plot was basically, those are aliens, you're human, do you want to die? No, cool, kill those people, okay? Awesome.
It kind of still is that.
And just get the world to work together. Now, the first experience I had with XCOM 2 was this 1984 Jim Jones guy standing in front of standing behind the pulpit, and I don't know, it just didn't put me in an XCOM mood. What it did remind me of, though, to throw back to one of our other interviews, is it reminded me a lot of Command and Conquer. So to a point, it kind of plucked at my heartstrings, thinking of the nod and everything along those lines. But I was not expecting that kind of thing in an XCOM game. The big complaint I have about XCOM 2 is that it throws you into it expecting that you've played the previous game. I just felt like it didn't really give you any real knowledge of what was going on. I mean, I didn't expect XCOM to be these rebels. I really honestly didn't. And even the intro cutscene didn't really give me a lot of information, I didn't think.
Yeah, but it's not like the layout. It's not that the actual layout of the game condemns the game not to have a good story, does it? You could still have a good story.
You can, but I have to harken back to St. John Romero, who basically was quoted as saying, plot in a game is kind of like plot in a porn. It's there. It doesn't need to be there. No one's watching it for the plot. Paraphrased. It's for the gameplay. And so my initial
I'm the first one to think that. I'm just saying the story already looks very bad to me.
So what's funny about that is honestly, it's just, and I know, you know me, I always go for the story-driven game. But some games just don't need a story. And I honestly don't need a story for XCOM. I need people, I need guns, I need research, and I need engineers, I need a base, and that's it. You just let me go to each of these locations, let me scrounge up resources, let me scrounge up people, and let me save the world by blowing half of it up. Caitlin.
I get what you're saying, but I kind of wish I'd known or understood. Maybe I knew, but I didn't understand that what I was playing wasn't a mission-based, paramilitary group game. It's a digitalized, glorified version of Risk. I have to go to the place and make it be part of my lined network. I have to throw guys at a big mission, which they have a very high chance of failure. I might as well just roll the dice right there and not even send them to the actual mission. It might as well be Risk.
And sometimes,
as far as that aspect of the game.
And sometimes the stories in porn are really important. Sometimes they make the movie, Steven. Sometimes the story
What porn have you ever watched where you were paying attention to the plot? Debbie Does Dallas did not win an Oscar. I'm sorry.
I always pay attention to the plot.
Although
thank you very much.
Was awesome.
I couldn't possibly get into it without a plot.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Eli. The best porn movies are they've got great.
You had a hard time saying that, huh?
I mean, contextually, like sometimes when they're in good context, it makes the movie a lot better. So I feel like it's the same thing with XCom. If you cared a little bit more about the situation of the resistance, actually, you would feel a little bit more engaged in the fight. Just it bears the same question: do you care about your characters? Do you care about the story? These are they don't go parallel; they go hand in hand. If you care about the characters, you care about the story, and you move forward.
No, I don't agree with that. I care about my squad. I care about my team because honestly, it's a situation where I've put not even really a lot of time. You don't put time into your characters if they survive a mission.
Get me right, Steven. I'm not saying I want more story. I want very little story, just like you for this type of games. But still, very little story could be good story.
This is true, but I was answering your question. I don't personally get invested in the characters because I know that if my characters get a kill on a mission and they survive the mission, they're probably going to be promoted at the end of it when they're getting the debriefing. So even if I lose one of my highest squad members, I'm going to be irritated because they're probably the strongest cornerstone of my squad. But I can always build up another one. So to a point, it actually allows you to cheapen life.
What little story there does appear to be seems to mostly be revolving around your main scientist, your main engineer, and Bradford, who is theoretically your second in command, but I haven't seen him do anything since the tutorial. Because those are the three characters that aren't going to die. So you get banter between them, you get them discussing what's happening, but really, I don't really care about the plot of what the organization is doing. I'm vaguely interested in like what the scientist's backstory is, but even that's just kind of a, oh, hey, cool. So that's what life is like in this dystopia.
I don't know. I just can't bring myself to care because to me, the majority of the game is the combat. And I don't really care about the nuances. I don't care about the pseudo X-Files plot. I don't care about the chip that came out of the guy's head. I don't care about the gruff Marine that is the commander that the character I'm playing. I care about getting through the mission alive, which is kind of an allegory for real war. Caitlin.
First of all, I am the commander of this ship, and I am in no way gruff.
And they're all fabulous.
Yes, they pulled me out of that suit. It's in first person, okay? Second of all, I don't like any of the characters. They're so flat and wooden. There's nothing about them that compels me at all except for the scientist likes burgers. All they ever do is annoy me and then not do anything and then take way too long to do things that aren't even hard, like clear out a room.
I could do more research if I had more scientists.
Shut up,
that was
do
kind
it.
of my
Just
first
get it done. We at OP Noobs get stuff done, and we don't, like, we're a rebel group, so why can't you get it done?
Sometimes.
That's occasionally. Gary, and then we've got 2 minutes before the first giveaway. So Gary, go.
I don't know, that just seems a little bit uncharitable. One dude, he's a scientist. Yeah, reverse engineer this alien microchip.
Yeah, just one guy.
Why are you taking weeks?
I wish I could have made
do that, them too. Why can't you do everything else? You know, why do you need a team?
I wish I could have created Taigen and Shen. Like, I wish that I could have customized them as well. It would have been like, what if they got experience from researching and got better at researching? What if they were just as strategic as the operatives you send out? You'd be
I don't think you
you'd
can
be more
research
invested. You can. You'd be more invested
I was
in them
gonna say,
if they had a growth.
I
growth
just find
path.
it very interesting, and this is kind of, again, picking nits, but one scientist reverse engineered the chip that gets yanked out of your head, and it just so conveniently happens to be a scientist that worked with the enemy at some point. So, gee, how interesting.
It's such
It's been
such
20
bad
years. That's most
storytelling.
scientists, let's be honest.
It just seems...
So-
again, the plot that's there, that's getting shoehorned. To
Sounds
me,
like
it feels
bad
like it's
porn.
shoehorned in. Yeah, it gets shoehorned. To me, it feels like it gets shoehorned in, but it's just a comedy of conveniences.
Why is the enemy destroying a planet that they conquered? Why are they trying to, like, I don't know
Because
if
they
they're blowing
wanna
it up.
smash
I don't know
their
what they're
toys.
doing. But why
They
are
are
they trying
blowing it
to,
up.
like, why are they trying to, I don't know, end the world? Because that's what seems to be what we're fighting for.
Because apparently that's what aliens do. They conquer a planet and they go, meh, I'm bored
But
now.
they've been living
So-
with people for 20 years now. And have you noticed that there are no children? Like, when you do the retaliation strikes and you have to
Ah.
save civilians, there are no children. You all are, like, young. Look at the soldiers that
there's-
you're putting out there. They're so young looking. They were children in probably the first XCOM game, I imagine. Yet there are no children in this world.
Gary,
I will
Gary,
say,
you're going to have to hold that thought because we're going to do a giveaway in about 10 seconds now.
Okay, all right.
Of course,
well,
it could be doing a 00 for all I know.
yeah, did you see that the little digits disappeared and the picture stayed on the layout as the giveaway is about to happen?
I did. It's almost like somebody really planned for that to happen.
I think somebody did.
no, right?
Well, guys, it's time for the giveaway. Thanks for tuning in. We're opinoobs.com, PC Gaming by PC Gamer. If you want to come and hang out with us, you sure can. Just send an email to fred@opinoobs.com or steven@opinoobs.com. We're both very nice people, and we'll get back to you. We do a lot of game reviews. We do a lot of dev talks. We're getting into the competitive industry for indie studios in a department called E4I, something we're very excited about. So check us out in 2016 for some hot stuff. Steven is actually going to be one of the esports anchor, if not the esports anchor. So we're excited to have him grow into this new role for him. You're going to need a lot of that, Steven. We're about to give away Alien Isolation, and the way we do these things is actually pretty straightforward. We have the great, the fantastic, the majestic Caitlin Manka, who thinks of a number between 0 and 100. Caitlin, do you have a number between 0 and 100?
Yes.
Is it a good number?
I hope so.
Is it a rational number?
Is it a rational number? Is it an integral
Don't know.
number? I'm not good in mathematics, but
It's
is it,
pi. It's pi, isn't it?
yeah. Is it like you said an integral number, right? Like a number that's full, like no decimals.
There are no
An integer?
decimals.
Yeah, an integer. That's that's the one.
So have to be decimals. It's
Yes.
got to be a partial number. It's got to be a real number
So
between 0 and infinity.
it's actually pretty simple. You're gonna put your number 0 and 100 in the chat. Some of you are already doing it, and the one that's closest to Caitlin's magic number, Caitlin is the only person who knows about the number, and I want to give you my total, absolute guarantee that there is no cheating here. Caitlin is always a little bit nervous before she gets on those shows that she is going to be accused of favoritism. No, Caitlin has no heart. She has only a number in her head, and that's all she cares about. She's just like the aliens in XCom.
Poor Gary. He's so torn. Do I agree or not?
Yes, Gary, actually, while we wait for people to put their number, and we're gonna stop in just a couple seconds, what type of a girlfriend is Caitlin?
Pretty good, although several states away, so that's a bit of a bummer.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how caring of a girlfriend is she?
Because she's several states away and she can't
This
see
is
you right
appropriate.
Yes.
So,
On
Fred,
a
we got to
scale
talk
from 1
about
to-
that.
On a scale from 1 to 10.
We got to talk about that sexual harassment thing, Fred.
Nah, I said how attentionate is she? How caring is she? Loving. You guys are the perverts here.
That's not
Say
the
a bad
number
thing
that
and I
he's-
won't come home
You're not thinking
Tuesday.
of this from a perverted point of view. It's just,
No, because
it's just appropriate.
We've heard Caitlin we've heard Caitlin on TeamSpeak when she thought her microphone was muted. Remember?
She is,
We remember it's Caitlin's evil side when she thinks she's in the shadow. It's the end of the giveaway. We'll get back to XCOM. I'm sorry, I didn't think it was inappropriate.
totally not appropriate. Although,
What are you talking about? I am the best girlfriend in the world.
Alright,
I know, because I would date myself.
and without any further delay,
she would
We'll
date
build you a
her
robot.
entire squad apparently because they're all fabulous.
actually with a couple delays, Caitlin, the winner of the first giveaway, please.
Okay, so the random number that I picked was 33.
33.
Let's see which one's closest. I think that the closest one is Avedon Gaming. Maybe 25 is closest to 33, I'm pretty sure.
Isn't that
We suck at math here.
I think Avedon Gaming might be AJ Millard. Is that AJ Millardy? I think so. I'm not sure. So, it's the guy who called me a pedo bear. I'm not a pedo bear.
Fredo Bear. Oh, that's perfect.
So messed up. Alright, well, congratulations, Avedon Gaming. I am right now whispering you for a key for the link for the Humble Bundle for you to download Alien Isolation. Here you go. It's all yours. Congratulations. Thanks for tuning in. And the next giveaway, the very exciting one, the fantastic one, it's Rise of the Tomb Raider in 39 minutes. Yeah, the better one. No,
I mean, I'm biased. I love the hell out of Alien Isolation, and it made all the Alien fans happy. It made me happy because it got the taste of Colonial Marines out of my friggin' mouth. But beside the point. So yeah, Sexual Harassment Fred will be giving away that one once we get a little bit closer.
Happy to do it,
That's
guys.
your new nickname.
Happy to do it.
So I just to do a shameless plug here for a second, there's a reason that we do this and only one of us is drunk. Well, maybe Eli, but one of us is at least slightly drunk. The reason we do this is because we love gaming. We are 100% independent. We are not biased. We hate everything. Well, I hate everything equally, but we like gaming. That's why we do this. So you're not going to see us sponsored by anything. Good. We are doing this totally out of pocket. Fred is hemorrhaging money as we speak because he does this out of love or because he wants to harass people, but mostly out of love.
Caitlin,
Sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment, Fred, yes. So that being said, we're going to get back to the whole point of this with XCOM 2. So, Caitlin, again, we keep referring to you because you've somehow managed to play a lot of time for a game that you don't like. But I think that's mostly because you made your entire squad so sexy. So why on earth did you do that? What was, other than the story you told earlier when you made Mushmouth, essentially, and made him pink, what is it about it that keeps you coming back if you really sincerely don't like the game? You answered it sort of earlier, but is this a game that you would play normally? Would you play other strategy games like this after playing this one?
You know, I tend to prefer action games. I just like when the screen moves as I run with the wind through my virtual hair. But you know what? I'm kind of addicted to it because I'm a very strategic, obsessed person. I played Magic the Gathering. I was the president of Chess Club when it was still alive at Marymount. I do a lot in the real world with strategy. I love D&D. So trying to play. I thought that I should like XCOM. I felt like I should like it because it does work like combat in D&D really similarly.
It's basically a tabletop game, right?
I've got to admit, I'm a little frustrated with you all, actually. Yeah. Starting with Steven and ending with Caitlin. I'm a little frustrated.
Why is that, Fred?
Because I feel in a way like you guys are ruining the excitement I feel about playing this game in depth and going in depth about it. Because it's got tons of great, amazing press. I mean, you're looking at high 90s from at least mid 90s from most massive gaming sites. People are excited about this game. People are loving. They were excited about it, and they're receiving it in a world that says yes, they basically met what we were expecting. All the hype was justified, and Caitlin, Caitlin started saying, I'm not even gonna get on this podcast, Fred. I'm not even interested. Ended up throwing 40 hours of her life within the past 3 days. It's been out for 3 days, come on. And I feel like there is a general feel of antipathy towards XCOM during this initial podcast that kind of ruins my excitement. I'm still going to be excited about investing dozens of hours into this game, and I don't feel like we can really be this dark about the game until next week.
Fred, it's obviously good. I can't stop playing it. It's a well put together piece of machinery. It's fun to play once you find your niche for why you care about it. It might be why Steven cares about it. What do you
Fred,
like about it?
The one thing that I have constantly said in many of the games that I rip apart and yet go on to play, for example, Diablo 3. Bigger fan of Diablo 2, still put over 400 hours into Diablo 3. Yeah, I've had a lot of time. Not the seasonal character for some odd reason. It doesn't appeal to me. But I have negative things to say about XCOM 2 because I played the originals, and I love the hell out of the originals. Even Terror of the Deep, which sucked hard. I hated that version of XCOM. But it's still an enjoyable game. And yes, there are some changes to the mechanics that I don't like. I like the fact that you can pick up the bodies and run back to the Sky Ranger, to your craft, if you're failing miserably, because then it adds a certain level of not only strategy, but it also makes things really, really tense. The idea of picking up and not only you're dead, but you're wounded. When you had wounded in the game, the avatar would change to the corpse in game. But you could pick up the wounded and take them back to the shuttle and get the hell out of there. You can't really do that here.
But to me, in a way, that's it's the type of game, and in a way, I know this is turn-based and StarCraft isn't, but in a way, you can draw a comparison there in saying that as you play campaign mode, and not the StarCraft, the competitive StarCraft, but as you go through the campaigns, and a lot of people enjoy StarCraft that way. I'm one of them. I buy the expansion, I go through the campaign, and I'm done.
Yeah.
It's the type of game which during the first couple hours you're not really you can't make an opinion yet. You haven't really gotten to a stage where you don't know if you're gonna like this game. I guess it takes quite a few. It takes 5-10 hours before it really starts to click, I think. And then when it starts to click, you can make your mind. And I feel like this is week one. All of us, except maybe for Caitlin, and if anything, Caitlin goes towards my argument that even the people who don't like this game at first, when they invest their time, they're hooked on it. I just feel like I want to give it a real shot before we kind of bash it so harshly.
I mean, I'm not against that. I mean, the games that I really have bashed in the past, like Deus Ex, again, basing it off of the older games. I'm kind of a retro aficionado anyway. It's not that they're bad. It's just that they're slightly different. And the thing is, if I bash on a mechanic, yet I had a lot of fun going through XCOM 2 before this. I was playing it right up to the point where we started this thing. And I was just kind of pretending to actually be paying attention to you. It's actually a fun game. So even though I have some little niggling issues about it, it's still fun. Just like I had a couple of niggling issues about Rise of the Tomb Raider. But like we talked about on the last AAA Anonymous, I love the heck out of it. So just because just because I'm critical on it, doesn't mean I'm going to rip it apart. Just like I did with Fallout 4. I played over 120 hours on that, and yet I still prefer the older games. Because then it was new.
Yeah. But
to me, it felt more original.
But Fallout 4 I feel like is a different story, because Fallout 4 was an amazing game all the way till the end, and then
But that's
at the end you suddenly feel somewhat betrayed by the game.
But the older games, that's the thing, is some of the older games, they did things incredibly well, just like with XCOM, just like with any of these rehashes and sequels.
See, that's the difference with. I know it's two completely different genres, but it's the difference between XCOM and Fallout that I'm anticipating and that I hope will happen. Fallout 4, you're playing it, and as you're playing, you're like, oh my god, I'm gearing up for something great. The whole time you're investing dozens and dozens of hours, you're getting better, and then suddenly you get to the end and you realize, actually, it was the climb that was great, and now that I'm up there, everything is irrelevant. And that's a huge downer from a game development standpoint, because the gamer wants that. In many ways, that's what World of Warcraft did so successfully. It's the climb, and then when you arrive at the top, you're the noobs of all the noobs.
But at the same time,
but let me finish. XCOM 2, supposedly, you climb, you go through the mistakes, you get all the way to the end, and you become a Caitlyn. You're in your base, and you're like, oh my god, I've done it all wrong. Like, now I have to restart with all the knowledge that I've accumulated, and I get into it, and I tackle the game with the experience that I need to become a pro at it. That is good game development. That is what Fallout is missing, and that is what I hope XCOM really shines at.
But to a point, it is actually a good thing, because in a standard war, it doesn't always go the way you want it. You can spend all your time building up one aspect, and this is me kind of not splitting hairs, but kind of grasping a little bit, or maybe overanalyzing it a bit. But in a standard war, if you have a strategy that's working, or you seem to be working, and then suddenly you're hit out of nowhere with the fact that your supply lines got decimated, or you went after one territory and then should have gone after another territory. To me, even though you're almost guaranteed to lose the game, it's still a situation where, just like a legit tabletop campaign, because that's kind of what XCOM is. It's a digital version of a tabletop strategy game, like BattleTech, for example, my favorite, or Shadowrun, my favorite. It's one of those things where you can play it and then suddenly realize, shit, I should have done this way back when. I think, and I could be totally wrong, but I think that's one of the reasons why Caitlyn hasn't reloaded her save from way back when, just to see, can I pull myself out of this situation, and can I pull myself out of this hole I've dug? And really, to me, that's good game design, because that means even when you lose, you still enjoy it. And that's kind of what we tend to forget. It's not about winning and losing, it's how you play the game. Caitlyn, you're muted. That would have been so wonderful if you weren't muted.
I completely agree with you, because that's exactly how I feel. But one of my other problems with the rising difficulty in XCOM, and I did mention this to Gary earlier, is that when you start out in the game, the missions all have different difficulty levels. They have easy, moderate, difficult, very difficult, right? And as you go through the game, as you go through the plot, which you have to do or else you will lose, there's only difficult and very difficult. Yet, you do lose soldiers on the way. There are no missions to season rookies in. And that is a thing that is making it very hard for me to really justify recruiting at all. I have my good guys. I spread out the experience. You know, I had the squads that I could afford to send. I had the rookies I could afford to recruit. But then there were no more missions where my rookies would really survive. And now I'm trying so hard just to get to a mission where my rookie shoots someone and survives so that they can be promoted.
And I kind of ran into that when I was doing the base building stuff with Metal Gear Solid 5 as well, where I had my specific teams and then I'd send them out and then I'd realize, oh crap, they're screwed because they're all new recruits that I just yanked out of another mission.
The reason why
is that something that you run into?
Yeah, the reason why the very difficult and difficult missions are difficult is because they added all the new enemies that you get as you level. So instead of just, you know, the little guys and the sectoids, you have, you know, the awesome, fabulous looking snake people. And you have, I'm sorry, I don't know the names very well, even though I've been playing, the big fat guys that hit you when you slice them with your ranger. Now, a rookie has a hard time surviving against those. Even if you have the upgraded gun in their hands, they don't do enough damage. And you need that slot to be filled with somebody who has more expertise. That's just, it like scares me. I'd rather bring 3 grenadiers and a sniper. Like, But I can't because they got injured in the last mission, so I actually have to train someone. But I wish that there were like smaller missions back. Like I thought it would be difficulty by zone, maybe. Like maybe there were smaller, easy missions that I could still do by around my base, where like there's a little uprising here and there that I need to deal with, but there's not. And I've been hitting this difficulty block where I don't know how to proceed.
Eli, you had your hand up?
Well, that was for earlier. The way that you were talking about it, I was going to say it makes it sound
let's pop
like
back to that. Yeah.
Makes it sound like a game of Risk.
It is
Like-
exactly
Yes.
like Risk.
Like
XCOM
it sounded
has always been.
so
It
much
so
like that.
is.
Made
Yeah.
me think of all the times that I would go like trying to invade a territory where I had 15 units up against 3 and I would lose.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one of the fun parts, even about the original games, is that you could be overwhelmed. You could lose every single capital city in the original games, but you'd still have your base and you'd still try and mount an offensive. You'd be totally screwed, but you could still try. And in some cases, you might be able to eke out like a little outer heaven type of thing to bring Metal Gear Solid back in, because I've been playing a lot of that, God. But it's just one of those things where even if you know you're screwed, there's something about XCOM that makes you want to keep going. Even though you're getting totally decimated on all fronts and you're down to maybe 3 squad members and none of them have really seen any combat and one of them has a lazy eye and they're your sniper. So you can still run into situations where you want to keep trying because you can't admit defeat. And there are very few games that have ever actually made me do that. XCOM, and even XCOM 2, from what little I've honestly played of it, is one of those games. Gary, you had your hand up, or you had a thought? Do you have anything
That was a
to
while
add?
back, I'm guessing.
Jump
so
on back,
I
because
don't.
Caitlin monopolized everything and Fred wouldn't stop talking. So, Gary, what
I
was your
don't
hand
even
up?
remember.
Oh, okay. But what do you have anything to add about that? The game has there been any instances where you have been totally hosed, but you kept going anyway? And why did you, if you did?
I have lost
Great.
some people. I will point out that there are missions that
Yeah.
you do have the option to get new recruits that are scaled to your like average to upper tier recruits. It's so your new recruits aren't necessarily always from the kindergarten where you hand them a gun and then tell them to become a soldier. Sometimes you get somebody who's experienced, so that does help. And that does help, so even if your entire squad is killed, it is possible to replace them without sending a bunch of rookies out to fight alone. Sometimes.
It would be great if there were like a tank that you could throw rookies in, like a training room, where they could cut their teeth, and you could grow your company, while sinking resources into them. Or, it would be also great if I could visit my wounded soldiers in the hospital and talk to them about the trauma that they've been through. I would feel really good about that.
There's something like that.
So,
You want a med bay,
base
is what
and
you're saying.
black
But there is a
market.
med bay. They're all in there. I just can't go there.
Yeah, you want an interactive med bay. Fred, you've been trying to raise the roof for like 10 minutes. What's up?
Yeah, a couple of things I like to add. Actually, very, very disconnected from the conversation we've been having over the past 5 minutes. The first thing is I hope you're admiring the very beautiful gameplay because that's my gameplay. It's flawless. It's my first gameplay. I was actually with Caitlin on TeamSpeak when that happened. It goes back to what I was saying.
He's
Great.
so proud.
It is. It's flawless. If you look at the gameplay on the stream, I just killed it. I nailed everything.
It's because it's a Frenchman that's winning a battle.
This is just pounded them all. Every time I finished
bad.
the mission, it was perfect. You just nailed it, Fred. I was like, well, thanks. Moving forward, we're getting towards the end of the show, Steven. And
Yes,
I
I've
feel
noticed that.
as a PC gaming community, we've got to talk about graphic settings. And so I want to approach it because I've had a fair share of frustration with XCOM. I'm just gonna go full disclosure on this, man. I'm just gonna go full disclosure. I'm pretty eccentric when it comes to the type of graphic cards that are gonna fill my power. started playing Rise of the Tomb Raider. And I looked at the little bottom right side of my screen with the amount of FPS, which is normally always around 130, 140, because I play on the BenQ, which has a refresh rate of 144 hertz. And I start seeing like my frame rate is on 45, 50 frames per second. So I go and I get frustrated. And I go and I invest and I fixed it with a pair of SLI TIs. And I play Tomb Raider, and now I'm at 70, 80 frames per second, and I'm a happy man. I'm sorry to bore you, Steven, but I've got to give a good introduction to make sense out of what I'm about to say.
Everybody that watches these shows know your specs so much that we all know what computer you're running.
Because what happened with XCom pissed the living crap out of me. So I'm thinking, okay, XCom, please, like, I think it's Caitlin who said, Caitlin and Gary who were saying on TeamSpeak that you can play that game on a toaster.
The original, yes.
So I'm thinking I'm gonna have like a steady 144 frames per second playing this very basic looking, still very polished, very nice, cool looking game. I continue to make this a story that's very long. That's why I've been raising the roof for the while, because I knew it would take some time. You guys can keep your hands up, but I'm not done.
Gary, put your hand down. This is gonna take like a while.
Yeah. I'm nowhere close to being done. So drink up, Steven. So I launched my Shadowplay GeForce Experience, and I told Shadowplay, go on Shadowplay, max the settings up for me. I'm about to jump into XCOM 2. And Shadowplay Experience says, hey Fred, we know you've got your new pair of SLI TIs, but guess what? You can play this at max settings. So you go like, what do you mean I can play this at max settings? So I look closer, and
Are you actually talking to your video card at this point?
Yeah, no, hold on. You know how Shadowplay has a full bar of anything from the left is performance, and then everything to the right is graphics quality, and then you optimize it based on your settings. It finds the perfect alignment. And normally I'm all the way to the right, which is basically max settings. This one is one bar to the right, so almost to the right. And make a very long story short.
Too late. I had to do a Clue reference, I'm sorry. Go on.
There is a little option, and I've looked on all the forums, and there are so many people bitching about this. That's why I'm bringing it up. There's a little option on XCOM 2 that allows you to play the game in anti-aliasing mode 8x. Which
you don't need it, Fred.
I know I don't need it, but if it's there, I want to play it, and I want my game. I'm on my gaming rig.
You won't even be able to notice the difference.
It dropped. So if I play it in 4x anti-aliasing, I'm averaging 60 frames per second, which honestly is not great performance for a game that graphically does not even compete against Tomb Raider.
Yeah, the human eye can't really see much more than that, right?
How is that possible that, first of all, it gives you an option that takes you down to 40 frames per second, and there are people on forums, even technical experts, complaining about the fact that there are people with 970s, 980s playing XCOM 2 at 20 frames per second. That's bullshit. Pardon my French. It's just, it shouldn't be. It's the type of options that's like, it should not be, and it doesn't make any sense that a beautiful game like Lara Croft Tomb Raider is less demanding than XCOM.
Eli first, Fred. Then Gary.
Fred, real quick.
And don't tell me that I don't need the 8x anti-aliasing.
No, I'm actually going to agree with you in a minute, but Eli first, Gary, then me.
Fred, what resolution are you running at?
I'm running at 1080p. I'm not even at 4K.
Even at 1080p, you do not need anti-aliasing. It will look gorgeous all the same. So you shouldn't worry about anti-aliasing. It's an issue of optimization in the game. It's, that particular function of the graphics is not optimized as well as it could be.
Yeah, so why do they do that? I mean, can't we expect an industry that's got their shit together?
I humbly submit Warner Brothers and Rocksteady's port of Arkham Knight. No.
Although
Gary.
that was the third game in the series.
This is
my statements to you still stand. This game can be played on a toaster. I say this as somebody playing it on a toaster right now. I look at your footage, and I do agree that it is beautiful. It is a little bit better than what I've got, but I can play it, and I am a person who could not play Fallout 4 due to the fact that my computer just couldn't take it. So
it did you a favor.
Anyone observing, yes, at the maximum settings to the point of ludicrous, yes, it is very hard on your computer. But I'm playing on the default settings. It looks very nice, and I can play it on my toaster. It's very good.
What toaster are you using that you're able to play this on? I mean, I appreciate the fact that I can play Doom on my printer, but
fair enough. Toaster is an exaggeration, but there are games I cannot play, and that is a lot of modern games. So this is not a demanding game.
That's why an SLI 980 Ti should be able to play this at max settings.
It should be able to, but notice that believe it or not, Fred, you are in the 1%, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to do it anyway. A lot of people aren't using SLI. A lot of games aren't optimized for SLI. That's why it's weird but true. A lot of games, but here's the thing. The other reason, Firaxis games, I'm going to regret this, Firaxis games have never honestly been technically perfect. They've never even been technically decent in most cases. Sid Meier. Well, let me go down the history though, because that's why you guys keep me here. Sid Meier's Pirates wasn't the prettiest technical game. It was pretty, but it wasn't pretty enough. There were a lot of jagged polygons. Civilizations, not the greatest in looks, but pretty good in play. Even the original XComs were kind of ugly.
The original XComs were not Firaxis, though. Those were Microprose.
That was the other. Well, that's what I said at the top of this. Is Firaxis took over. So the original games from Microprose, they weren't even that good, although Microprose, God, I miss them. Anyway, that being said, I will admit there were some really weird graphical screw-ups that I had as well, and I even quit the game to check my settings to make sure I wasn't using the integrated. Yes, for full disclosure, and you can throw rotten fruit at me, I use a laptop for gaming. And I use a 970M, and it can run everything that I throw at it.
I mean, you also you play on an Alienware, so...
I do, and people hate Alienware, but screw it, it's better than Asus. That being said, I had some weird glitches.
I had a lot of problems with it.
I do. But I run it on the highest possible settings, and I had to quit the game to make sure I actually wasn't using the crappy Intel processor. I left, I came back in, there was still stuttering before missions and during load. I do actually like the fact that the loading mission is the traveling to waypoints, which I like that kind of thing. I was always a fan of the elevator scenes in Mass Effect, because it's better than watching a progress bar. So I like that little touch. So it's not all negative. But I had some negative graphical issues too. I just turned down a couple of settings and they went away. I would rather smooth gameplay than pretty gameplay. I just am lucky enough to have both. I want both. I want both too, but sometimes you can't get it.
I expect a lot from AAA, and I feel like PC gaming is broken, and it shouldn't be. I feel like
it's the way that AAA developers treat the PC, and
it's very experimental.
But at that same time, PC gamers are not all that easy to work with either.
You shouldn't have to work with us.
Make a lot of demands.
You shouldn't have to work with us for game development, Steven.
No, you shouldn't.
You should just produce a good game that runs at a steady frame. Do console games drop in frames the way PC games do?
In some cases, yeah. But that's the thing. Consoles are just gift PCs anyway. But a lot of developers, that's my shot for the evening, but a lot of but a lot of publishers don't like PCs simply because of many different reasons. We're very outspoken, which we should be. We have some issues with piracy, which we shouldn't, but it exists, and it's easier to do for PC. So people like consoles better. But the thing is, consoles and PC both have gotten the short end of the stick in a lot of games. It all just boils down to the way that developer and that publisher treats the PC as a platform. Caitlin.
On the graphics, it was interesting to me because after coming off of a binge of Tomb Raider and how gorgeous that game is, it was tough for me to reconcile with XCOM. And I checked multiple times to make sure my settings were all the way up, but I just couldn't believe that they were because it didn't look like...
Doesn't look like it should be in high and ultra, right? Even on high and ultra.
It doesn't. It doesn't look like it is. It looks like it's on medium, but it's on high and ultra. Like, if I put Tomb Raider actually down to medium-low settings, it would kind of look similar.
Yeah.
But not even.
Even low on Witcher.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this out there. Low on Witcher 3 looks better than XCOM. But XCOM isn't a game that is supposed to be...
Not about the graphics.
Yeah.
It should run perfectly at max settings.
I mean, you can be devil's advocate all you want, and I probably will be, but I actually do agree. We should get the best possible version of the game because honestly, we have so much power behind us.
So much more horsepower. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous that we get.
But then you get crap like Undertale that takes our OPN Game of the Year. Fred, I know you're still hurting about that, but. He cried like a baby for hours.
Can you be factually correct, please? It didn't take.
Yes.
It didn't take the Game of the Year. The Witcher 3 took Game of the Year, just like any other. We were totally conventional in that. Undertale took the RPG of the year.
It took Best RPG. Excuse me. It took Best RPG. But as far as I'm concerned, Witcher 3 pretty much swept everything.
Yeah.
But that's me getting on the soapbox. I'm going to get off it right now because we've got less than 10 minutes remaining before the final giveaway of the night, Rise of the Tomb Raider, which was an awesome, awesome Tomb Raider game. I enjoyed the hell out of it after a 10 or 15 year hiatus of not playing as Lara Croft.
You finished it?
I did finish it. And I'm actually tempted to start a new character, or start a new game again, to be honest.
Yeah, I lost my save, so I have to...
You lost it? How'd you lose it?
I lost my save because I reformatted my hard drive, and I thought I had saved it, and I ended up I didn't. And I was pissed off, but actually, you know what's funny is that in that game, you can take 10 hours to get to certain points, or you can take 15 minutes. True. Like when I bursted through all the past content, and I'm exaggerating obviously, but I got into almost where I was in like 7-8 hours of gameplay. I got there in like I think 45 minutes. Of course, I skipped all the story. I skipped everything. I just rushed there. I killed the bear. I pounded that bear.
That freaking bear! I hate that bear. Well, at least it's not like when I lost my 110, 120 hours of Witcher 3 stuff, and then just loaded up the game. Went, oh my god! I can start over again.
Start over again.
But anyway, so
I regretted, side fact, I regretted not paying more attention to the Witcher storyline about halfway through it. So I'm sure I would have gone back and said, you know what, I need to pay attention to this.
I treated the main storyline in Witcher 3 kind of like the main storyline in Fallout 4. I didn't really care about Sean. Screw the kid. Yeah. But anyway, we're not talking about either of those games. We're talking about XCOM 2. So, since we've got less than 8 minutes remaining, because my math sucks, because I didn't major in math and I don't care to. That being said, final thoughts or close to final thoughts on XCOM 2. We'll start with Caitlin, then we'll go to Gary, then we'll go to Eli, and then Fred, you'll be last.
I can tell that I'm going to be playing this game repeatedly whenever Gary is sleeping and not using his Steam account. So, because I have to start over if I lose this run, and now that I know what I'm doing, I might not even have to use the save resetting ever. Like, I learned so much from putting my operative in every stupid spot on the map that I can and seeing all the different ways they could die in that turn.
That's what I meant, Caitlin.
I learned so much, and I can go back and actually not suck.
Okay. Gary, since we've already established that your only reason for living is to go to sleep so that Caitlin can play your game.
Which I paid $50 for. Anyway, it is an awesome game. I have no issue with the fact that I spent all of that money on it, but I don't know if I like it more than XCOM 1.
Ooh. So,
I need to play it more, Caitlin.
Yeah, so... See, that's an interesting thing. Real quick, which do you think is better, the original XCOM reboot or XCOM 2? I mean, very briefly, what do you like about the original? What do you like about the sequel?
I really enjoyed the original because every mission, I more or less knew what I was doing. I could approach it at a reasonable pace. I liked that. The new one, I do like that it has a lot more variety, but I'm not sure whether or not that is actually making it better or if it is just keeping my interest slightly quicker. For now, I need to know whether or not I need to play it more before I really know whether I like A or B more.
Okay, fair enough. Eli, since you are the low man on this totem pole, since you haven't really played it much, what are your thoughts after hearing all this? You've played some XCOM games in the past, from the sounds of it. And so what are your thoughts on this as someone that actually does not have the game?
I am going to say right off the bat, I think this game, as well as the original, would have a hard time really impressing me compared to the original, the first XCOM that came out over 20 years ago. That game was just too amazing for its time. These games, it sounds to me like there's stuff that I could have fun with. Yeah, I feel like I could go into it and enjoy myself as long as I didn't take it too seriously. But I don't feel like it's going to compare to the old game.
So is this something that you would pick up anyway?
Oh yeah. It's just I'm not in a position to where, like, as far as money, like I can just throw money at this kind of stuff. So that's the only thing really holding me back from that.
Well, you got that sweet Borderlands print, so you got that at least. I mean, that's why you can't get it, right? Because you got all the DLC from Gearbox.
I love having you here, though, Eli.
Gearbox destroyed 3D
You're like the guy that showed up to class, and he's still participating in conversation, but he didn't read the book, even though he read the book before it, and I love it. Just gotta say.
Eli
You're being so helpful.
Eli is the other hipster to my hipster at this point. That's why he's still here.
But I'm not trying to be a hipster about this stuff. I'm broke.
I'm broke.
Well, I will be a hipster, and I will be as much a game snob as I possibly can without sounding like the cinema snob. But the long and short is I honestly still enjoy the old Microprose games. I still, even on my fancy schmancy Alienware with shiny buttons and all that, I still have the original XCOM on this. I still have the original. Granted, DOSBox is the only way it runs because it doesn't understand Windows 10. But it's still, I can keep going back to that, and it's still fun, even though it's ugly as sin. But XCOM 2 honestly does feel like a good game. It's just, while I'm playing it, it just feels like a lot of it has been streamlined for an easier time. Part of what made the original game fun is that it did feel like it was that uphill battle. You're fighting against an alien force that has better technology than you, and you are supposed to be easy to kill, whereas they're not. And so in the original XCOM, it was just that much harder. I appreciate the fact that I can snipe an alien from across the map, and it will drop like a rock. But to me, it doesn't feel as strategic. It doesn't feel like there's that much of a difficulty there, even on the highest difficulty.
It's just,
and because Fred is going to take the rest of the time, Fred,
I was about to say you shamelessly skipped me, but you didn't.
No, I didn't. I like XCOM 2, but it's not as good as the original.
I'm gonna be short-winded, Steven, because I feel like, unlike you, I feel like
doesn't give a giveaway.
No, unlike you, I feel like it's too soon to tell. It's too soon to tell. I tell you this though. Maybe because I'm getting older, but I have been looking to get into strategy game for lately. I've been feeling in the mood like I want to get into a strategy game pretty heftily. My only concern is that because of AAA Anonymous, the next AAA is gonna come, and just like Lara Croft, XCOM 2 is gonna meet an early death. Even though I think in the next couple weeks we should be free to go. I think the industry is slowing down quite a bit after Tomb Raider and XCOM 2. So I'm hoping we can actually have a couple shows about XCOM 2, and next week and the week after discuss a little bit more strategy with a bit more of an informed perspective and angle on the game. So I'm going to invest the next week in spending, I'm hoping 10 to 15 hours in game so that I can get around 20 by next weekend. It's always a challenge to find time to play, unfortunately, but yeah, so far I'm digging it, I'm enjoying it, I'm looking forward to this week.
Cool. All right, so in the last minute or so that we have before the giveaway, 1 minute before the good Tomb Raider. I know we already got Fred's final thoughts. Right? I'm still waiting for my key from a while ago that I supposedly
I'm still waiting for the janitor of CD Red Project to come on the show.
He's busy.
The janitor.
Holy shit! Yeah, we had an arrangement.
You announced him.
I did, but you know,
the janitor.
Paulo didn't feel like coming. Okay, I don't know. He's stuck in the closet somewhere.
But the janitor.
Well, Fred thinks because he's racist.
Steven announced last week on the podcast that the CD Red Project janitor will be on tonight's show, so I showed up. I shaved my hair. I did everything
Polish.
right.
I can do that. I can pretend to be the janitor. I mean,
Caitlin put makeup on. She did the hairdo. Like, we're ready. Where is the janitor from CD Red Project?
Okay, so that means for the next episode, I should get a flight suit jumpsuit, and I will sit here, and I will pretend to have been at CD Projekt Red in Poland for you.
Honestly,
Fred.
I really feel like at some point we should get a janitor. I feel like it would be nice. No, I'm serious. It would be great.
We need an office before we have a janitor.
So
no, like a janitor of a big studio. Like we get the Blizzard's janitor, or we get somebody like who doesn't give a shit about losing his job. He's just
that would be really interesting. But most of those studios are going to have a contract company that provides their janitorial services, so you'd have a hard time getting their janitors.
Well, actually, that would be kind of funny. So how do you feel about the next expansion? I don't know. I just cleaned up the Mountain Dew and the Hot Pocket guff from the floor.
They could tell us what the next secret project is, because they must see it secretly. I don't think.
No, because they kill those people, Fred. Now, that being said, how about we give somebody something? Yeah,
it's time for the giveaway.
Yeah.
It's time for the giveaway. We're about to give a copy of Rise of the Tomb Raider. Caitlin, you've got to think of a serious number right there. Give us something really good, something really surprising. It must be an integer. An integer.
I love it. Integer.
Integer.
Okay, it's an integer.
So we're about to give a Rise of
our super secret scientific method here.
Yes, Rise of the Tomb Raider with Lara Croft. Everybody enter a number between 0 and 100. 0 in the 100 in the chat now. And so apparently I'm not a good person to kind of make small talk in between giveaways. So why don't you guys entertain while we wait for the big reveal? I
didn't think that guy would ever leave. Yeah, it's about time. Oh, you're still here, Fred. Oh.
Yeah, I don't see anyone in chat tapping. Oh, okay, we've got Neversit who entered the 34. Neversit right now is the only candidate. Is this for real? Neversit is the only candidate for Rise of the... we've got a 20. We got a 20 from...
got other people involved.
We got a 34, a 20, a 33, a 7, and a 6. And I repeat...
A 6.
Un 34, un 20, un 33, un 7, un 6 et un 10. Un 34,
I don't understand what you said.
Un 20, un 33, un 7, un 6, un 10, un 69.
I believe it translates to roll up, place your bets here, place your bets here.
Something along those lines.
Something like that.
Basically.
We're just about...
God, I hope Fred doesn't win.
I'm going to close it. I didn't vote. I already have it. 3.
Same here.
I'm closing. 2.
Oh, I like that last guess.
1. Especially from somebody whose name is Steamylicious. Caitlin, and the grand winner of the giveaway is...
The number is 67. So that would be Steamylicious with the 69.
Delicious!
And I popped it into Skype so you know that I thought of the number before they guessed, okay? There's no
Steamylicious, are you a boy or a girl?
Hey. But Steamy is the one that was asking all the questions about sticking to the end and seeing if they could get into the raffle. So, see, this is why you watch our crazy, drunken antics all the way to the end. Believe it or not, it's kind of satisfying.
As is not usually the case when you're drunk.
Hey, now.
And if you missed it, on Tuesday night, the Should We Cover It show, we're gonna give another key from Rise of the Tomb Raider, because we've got two. So we're gonna give another Rise of the Tomb Raider on Tuesday night for the Should We Cover It show at 9:30 p.m. US Eastern Time. And that show, thankfully for you, does not last 2 hours, but about an hour actually.
But that's the best, because that's when we get to see all the wonderful and sometimes disgustingly terrible trailers that everybody puts out. Primarily for indie games, but we also look at AAA titles as well. So if you're interested in seeing what kind of good stuff can actually be on Steam and what kind of crap can be on Steam without having to do the work yourself, we will do it for you. And we give stuff away. So there's that.
I just gave the game away. I just did that.
Awesome. So your usefulness is outlived. So that being said, we'll go kill Fred. Or we'll send him off to a sortie on his own. But that being said, anybody with a final thought about XCOM 2? If not, we can close up tonight.
Steven, it's not the final thought. We're coming back next week and we're going to talk about XCOM 2 some more.
For right now.
In the meantime, make your operatives fabulous.
So make your operatives
challenge to you all.
Okay. Gary, so we've got make your operatives fabulous. In one sentence, XCOM, what would you suggest to people?
Throw grenades at everything that you're having difficulty with.
Make them fabulous and make them fabulously throw grenades. Eli, your thoughts?
I have to say, couldn't we have gotten a shot with a soldier all pink?
That's right. We should actually post some screenshots of these fabulous, fabulous people that Caitlin sent out to die.
For next week, it will be the treat. I'll send them to
awesome. Fred, final thought, one sentence, go. So make them fabulous, throw grenades, see what they look like, Fred.
For a crew that prides himself in calling itself La Résistance, not enough Frenchmen, buddy.
Okay, so we need fabulous Frenchmen that are actually French throwing grenades. I think that's a really good strategy, and hopefully people will do that going forward. So that being said, for all of us crazy lunatics in OP Noobs, check us out, opnoobs.com. If you want to join the team, you should, because we give you review keys if you actually do reviews. So go to the site. If you want to contribute, send an email to Fred at opnoobs.com. If you actually want that email read, send it to Steven, Steven, at opnoobs.com. And maybe, just maybe, we'll actually put it up there. But from all of us at OP Noobs, thanks for joining us. See you next time, and have a good evening.